Okay guys, welcome back after a long time. And today we do have another Mercedes, and it's a C-Class. It's not a 651 or a 654. It's the 1.6 4-cylinder diesel engine. This engine is used a lot in the Nissan X-Trails, Qashqais, a few Renault Kadjars, Captors and stuff like that. Now the issue with this one is the timing chain is very noisy. So we're going to start up in a minute, have it running for a short amount of time because the noise is very, very bad. Start the engine, please. As you can hear, that rattle is horrific. So we're going to go ahead, dismantle it, take off the air filter box cover, try to get access to the timing chain cover, and then take it from there. So we've gone ahead, loosen up the oil filter, allow the oil drain into the sump, taken off the air filter box. I'm going to remove this bracket here, which the air filter sits on. It's held on by 1, 2, 3 Torx bolts. It's got a 10mm on the side, it's got a 10mm on the bottom. And once we remove that, we get clear access to the fan belt, crank pulley, and the timing chain cover. Okay, so we've removed the bracket, water pump pulley as well as it comes in front of the timing chain cover. And we've removed the cooling fan so we can get clearer access to the crank pulley bolt. It's got a special tool that we need to use. We'll show that on removal. And also we've emptied the oil from underneath and taken off the 2 starter bolts. Disconnect the battery as the crank lock is on the engine block behind the starter, but we will show that clearly. We just removed the bolt so we can put in the lock. Once we put in the lock, we will show it in more detail. Now all that's left for us to do is to remove the pulley and time up the engine. No, not time up, take off the cover, then time up the engine and take it from there. Okay, so now this is the crank pulley that we've removed, and we're going to show the tool that's required. Basically we have a special tool like this which fits in to here. It fits in like this, and you have to hold this one clockwise whilst removing the 21mm bolt anti-clockwise. So otherwise, if you tried, you wouldn't be able to turn it on itself, as it will just be spinning together with this. It's like a key lock. So this goes on top like this, and you remove the 21mm, and then you remove the pulley. We've also got our parts here. So this is the camshaft sprocket. These are the guide bolts, plastic guide bolts. And this is the crankshaft sprocket, which goes over the crankshaft. Got our timing chain here. And these are the new bolts for the timing chain cover. Tensioner here. We've got a 2-piece plastic guides for which the timing chain sits in. So we've got a brand new timing chain cover. We're just missing a crank seal, which will be coming in the morning. And additionally, we'll be replacing the oil filter and engine oil. Okay, so we've removed the timing chain cover. There's a bolt here, don't forget, which goes on. Let me show you. Which goes through here on the timing belt cover, timing chain cover. So make sure you remove that one. Now from the tensioner, we can see how far the tensioner is out. That there's excessive play. The chain has stretched more than it should. It's close to failure. And as you heard from the sound as well from the video, it wasn't sounding healthy at all. Now we're going to time up the engine, lock up the cams, lock up the crank, remove our tensioner, timing chain guides, and the cam pulley. Okay, so we've removed the starter. I'll just try to lift it up with my hands, but it's difficult. And if you can see the locking pin straight underneath it. That's where you remove the bolt and put the locking pin through to lock the crank. So we'll put the locking pin in. Now we're gonna rotate the engine a little bit and then lock up the cams. Okay, so now that we locked the crank, we've also locked up the cams. It's got a key lock here, which it sits in through here. Then you've got to put these guides, they're like bushes, through here, bolt it on. Same here and same there. There's a line there, if you can see, needs to look upwards, and you need to make sure that these two bolt holes line up with the camshaft locking tool. Okay, so we've come back in the morning, cleaned up the surface on the engine, removing all the silicone, and we're just going to put the new chain set on. So the new camshaft gear, new crank gear down at the bottom, all the new guides, tension and timing chain. Then we will remove the locking pins, rotate the engine, lock it back into its place, just to make sure that everything lines up correctly before we close it up. Okay, so we've put the new kit on, as you can see. The tightening spec for these camshaft sprocket bolts are 10 Newton meters and 40 degrees. When you're replacing the guide, make sure before you take it off, you're careful how it comes, because one side is a bit longer, but if you was to turn this around, it will still fit. But make sure you just put it on the right side. Now, once we go ahead and close off the plate, we will give the tightening torques for the crank pulley bolt as well. Also, when putting on the chain, these two brass notches here need to line up with this hole here on the sprocket, and also there's the same mark on the bottom side of the crankshaft wheel. It's a bit difficult to see, but it's only one. It's a single one at the bottom, but it's twin at the top. So make sure you watch out for that when putting it back together. Okay, so after timing everything, checking everything, we've closed up the timing chain cover with the new one, sealed it off nicely so we don't get any oil leaks. Put the new oil filter on. We've also closed it off from the crank side where we lock it, so put the starter back into its place as well. Now all that's left for us to do is put the crank pulley into its place, put a water pump pulley, put a fan belt on, fill up the engine oil and close it back up, allow the engine to start. We'll make sure that there's no leaks, have it running for half an hour, test drive it, then prepare it for our customer.